Okay, so good evening and welcome and thank you for staying. Can you all see me? I'm like 5 foot tall, so where can I stand where everybody can see me? Can you all see me here? Podiums are not very good for me, especially when they're here for like 5'7" and 5'8" people. So can you all see me now? So thank you for staying till the very end. Often when I'm the last speaker and dinner's already being served, guess what? I'm looking at an empty room. Okay. So thanks for staying, I appreciate that. I'll try and keep it to my time and make sure that there's enough time for questions. I'm going to jump right into it. And I'm actually not going to be talking about the employee mindset, but my first slide is the employee mindset. And when Odette asked how many people in this room have a business, I think less than 10% had their hands up. So I'm going to assume that the others here are gainfully employed. So let's rephrase that question. How many of you right now are working as employees with a company? Show of hands. Okay, so that's quite a few of you, and then I'm guessing that the rest of you are probably students or, yeah, I see a lot of nods there. So the ones that are students, you've done summer jobs, you've experienced what it is to be an employee. Think of your best job or the job that you're in right now, and I'm hoping that if you're still working, there is something about your job that you absolutely love, which is why you're still there, right? Right? No, I don't know. Let's find out. Why are you still in the job that you're at? Some of the things that keep you in an employment and retain your employee perspective. Let's do a fire round and just shout out, what are the benefits of being an employee?
Stability.
Stability.
Money.
Money.
Benefits.
Benefits.
Flexibility.
Flexibility. Okay, so that's good. And you know what? That is pretty much my next slide. So there you go. Stability. You want to know there's a job for you when you wake up in the morning, you're going to get dressed, there's a routine, right? You get up, you have breakfast, you get the GO train, you get the subway, you walk, you get to an office. There is a nice little rhythm to it, which an employment gives you, and you like that, so you stay there. Also, there is some sort of seniority. You start as a junior intern, then you become VP. Those titles sound really fancy, right? Because when you're an entrepreneur, sure, you're the CEO, but you're also the janitor. But in a corporate structure, you can see advancement as you become more senior. There's other junior people coming, and you're like, hey, I'm the big person here. So you have a fancy title. You've got a reliable paycheck. It's such a great feeling, isn't it, as an employee, to know on the 15th of every month, there's going to be a deposit. I miss that. I really do. Because I don't know what I'm going to do on the 15th of this month. Am I going to get into my line of credit? Am I borrowing from Visa? That's me as an employer, but when I was an employee, I loved it. I knew every 2 weeks there's going to be a paycheck deposited into my bank account. Also, taxes taken at source. You know what that means? At the end of the year, when you file a tax return, employees see refunds. Ask an entrepreneur that's ever seen a tax refund. It doesn't happen. You're always paying the government, whether it's GST or what have you. So there's a lot of reasons that keep you. But now let's flip it. Aren't those the same reasons that are holding you back? What we've just identified as incentives to being an employee, taken from a different paradigm, taken from another perspective, those are the very reasons you're going to stay an employee. And that is the employee mindset, because you are comfortable. And this is what I'm going to share a quote with you, which I absolutely love, since we're all sharing quotes tonight. This quote is very simple and yet so profound. And the quote is, there is no comfort, or there is no growth in comfort, and there is no comfort in growth. Okay? And what does that mean? There is no growth in comfort. If you stay in your comfort zone, there's no growth in it. But if you decide to step out of your comfort zone and grow, you're not going to be so comfortable anymore. Right? So think about it. It's a nice quote, but it's a quote that should make you think and lead on to something else. It's a little bit premature. I was hoping to save this for later, but I don't follow rules very well. I'm not going to talk about this. This is what I usually talk about. When I talk about entrepreneurship, I talk about passion, I talk about fire, I talk about knowledge, I talk about staying up nights. People who are nodding have heard me do that, right? I'm literally jumping off the podium saying, get off your butt and start that business. Today, because I'm also a lawyer, I'm going to play the devil's advocate. And I'm going to flip it around and say, is this really for you? Because, like the speakers before me have said, entrepreneurship is not everybody's cup of tea. And yes, we're surrounded by stories of Zuckerberg and Steve Jobs, but you know what? That is a very, very, very small percentage of entrepreneurs. And yes, they should inspire you, but you also need a reality check. So that's what I'm here for today. Okay, let's run into this. First myth, starting a business is easy. And yes, you know, Odette, you have an idea, you start a business. So it makes it sound that yes, it is easy to start a business. But the reality is, as Odette will still tell you, and she's already spoken about, you need to know a lot more things when you start a business. And you don't want to learn these things after you've taken the plunge. You need to know your who, your what, your where, your when, your why, your how, all these things. And that's a lot of work. That's a lot of soul searching. That's a lot of research. There's a lot of studying that goes into it. So if anybody tells you that starting a business is easy, no. As a lawyer, I can tell you incorporating is easy. $99 online, get yourself a company. Incorporating is easy. Starting a business, not so much. You have to think about a lot of things. Myth number 2. Okay, actually I've put this. I forgot I did that. I normally just have pictures in my slides because then I don't know what I'm saying, so I can just say anything and nobody knows. So here I've summarized it. The cold hard truth. Most people who begin the process of starting a company actually never get around to starting that company. And you know what? You will hear about these people. You might even be one of these people. And that's okay. But you need to know about it. Because a lot of people wake up and say, I have this fantastic business idea. And then the minute they go into the who, what, where, when, why, that business idea has just not taken off. And they go back to their job and get their paycheck, and that business idea just brews in their head. So a lot of people, and these are all statistics from, from various parts of the web, I haven't made them up. 7 years of starting a business, even if you get around to starting a business, beyond that incorporation, you actually create a business. You've got your business card, you've gone out there, you filed a tax return, you've done all of that. Only a third of those businesses are still in business after 7 years. That's a very sobering thought, isn't it? And I'm such a party pooper here tonight. But you need to hear about this. Myth. Big myth. Entrepreneurs work fewer hours. No, they don't. Right? No, they don't. If you think that you hate your job because you're showing up at 8 a.m., you're going home at 5 p.m., you're spending an hour in the commute, and you're thinking, I could put all this time towards a business, and I'd be working a lot less hours as an entrepreneur, you're wrong. Entrepreneurs work incredibly long hours, work incredibly hard. We work mornings, and you know what? Because there's no structure, I loved what Shelly said. You walk into a job and you know exactly what you're supposed to do because somebody's told you that. And a lot of these corporate firms have a binder. It's called the employee handbook, right? Have you guys seen one of those? It's a big fat binder that tells you how you can request a paperclip. Like even that is spelled out, right? But as an entrepreneur, you're just always working. You wake up and you think of something, you're up late. I wake up at 3 in the morning, I can't go to sleep, I'll fire up my laptop. We're always working. People who work with me are used to seeing emails from me at 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m., because I'm constantly working. And I'll talk about this later on when that's the reality. I have these pictures. That is the reality, and that's not me, but that would be a pretty good caricature. You're always working. This is the truth. Entrepreneurs work very long hours and they rarely take those vacations. If anybody's read the book or seen a book on a bookshelf called The 4-Hour Workweek by Timothy Ferriss, I love business books. But you know what? There are very, very few business models that can actually take that book and make it work. Everyone that's heard me speak knows that by the time I'm done speaking, you will have a list of at least 10 books. because I love to read and I want every one of you to read. And I'm going to give you that list again tonight. It's going to be a different list. And I'm going to find out if you've read any of the other 10 books. Entrepreneurs are successful and they make a lot of money, yes. If you're Zuckerberg, if you're Steve Jobs, and if you're a small margin of entrepreneurs, you will be very, very successful. You will make millions. But for the most part, and I'm not saying that this room is mediocre. But you know what the problem is? If I asked you, how many people in this room think that you are above average? Raise your hand. Raise your hand. How many people here think they're above average? You see what I mean? Everybody thinks they're above average. So where is the average? If every one of you thinks you're above average, what is the average? And that's the problem, because you think entrepreneurs are successful, they make lots of money, but what's the reality? That's it. Entrepreneurs have lines of credit, they probably refinance their house, they've got, and that's fine. Because not every entrepreneurial venture is going to land into a venture capital's office. When venture caps, angel investors look at businesses, they have a very, very clear goal. They want to make $100 million off your idea. That's the kind of business that becomes the millionaire business. But most people here in this room, or generally when they think of starting a business, it's not this big biotech company or this fancy patent. And I hope that there are some of you here, because I would love to be able to say someday, that guy there, he was in one of my seminars. Look at him, he's doing well. And I'd be really proud and happy to hear that. But for the most part, entrepreneurs are not the big venture cap style entrepreneurs. And they don't make a lot of money. In fact, statistically, entrepreneurs do create a lot of wealth, but it's very unevenly distributed. So if you looked at the employees and the entrepreneurs, of course there's more money. But that money is being kept by a very small margin, not spread equally among all of the entrepreneurs. The typical entrepreneur earns less money than he or she would have otherwise earned working for someone else, right? Shani, you were in your corporate job. Have you matched your salary yet? No. I was a lawyer in this building. My first office as a lawyer was on the top floor of this building. True story. 72nd floor, corner office, overlooking the lake, and that was how I started out as a lawyer. I've been an entrepreneur now 7 years. Have I still matched that paycheck? That paycheck, yes, but if I'd stayed as a lawyer today, I would have made a lot more money. So why do we do it? If that is the cold hard reality, if we often end up overextending ourselves financially as entrepreneurs, why are we doing it, right? Because we know this is the truth. And I want you to know that as you engage in your entrepreneurial journey, that could be you. And it doesn't matter how passionate you are. It doesn't matter how much fire you have in your belly. You need to be aware that this could be you, and yet you will do it. And why will you still do it? Oh, there's another myth. Okay. Most entrepreneurs start businesses in attractive industries. Myth or reality? Myth. What do most entrepreneurs do? Most entrepreneurs pick industries that they're familiar with. They pick industries where they have been employees. If you work in a barber shop, or if you're, an esthetician in a nice spa, what are you likely to do as an entrepreneur? You're going to start your own spa. If you work as a chef in a kitchen of a really nice restaurant, what are you going to do as an entrepreneur? Start your own restaurant, correct? So you're not coming up with this brilliant idea that a venture capital firm is going to say, I love it, let me capitalize it, I'm going to give you $1 million, and let's make that 10 million. No. You're going to take your technical skill, and this is where so many entrepreneurs get it wrong. They do not understand that there is a difference in being a good technician and being a good business person. A good technician does not necessarily a good entrepreneur make. Okay? Just because you have worked as a realtor, you go out and start your own brokerage, or you've worked in a spa. These are the kind of entrepreneurs we see around us. There is very low differentiation. Somebody raised that question there. Fantastic point. Unique. What is so unique about your business? If you're not thinking about that before you embark on your enterprise, you're going to be swallowed. You're going to be just like every other restaurant and every other business out there. So the cold hard truth, my friends, is that most entrepreneurs pick industries in which they were employed and that they know and that they're comfortable with. And this is the part where I was going to bring in my quote. It would have been more relevant here, right? So I'm going to say it again. And what was the quote? Can somebody else say it for me? Yes? There is no growth in comfort, and there is no comfort in growth. You want to really grow? You want to do something different? You want to be passionate about something? Right? I'm not saying you have to cross over, but chances are it's that crossover that's making you quit your job. So follow that. I was a Bay Street transactions lawyer for 7 years when I decided to cross over into media and publishing and writing. And I now own MyBindi.com, which is a South Asian company. Completely different from what I did as a lawyer. But that was my passion, right? So I'm not saying you have to give up what you're good at, but I'm saying that explore that. Don't be boxed in by what you think you know, because otherwise you're going to end up in an industry that has very low differentiation, and that just means a very high failure rate, and you don't want that. How am I doing for time? How much time do I have? 7 minutes? Okay, that's not minutes. I have a quiz. I'm going to run through this quiz very, very quickly, because I think you need to all be true to yourself, right? And because this is a quiz, I'm not going to ask for your answers. I'm not even going to ask you to share your answers. This is for you. But I want you to be very, very honest with yourself. Can you do that? All right, let's do it. Answer these questions. If your answer is a yes, just do a line on your page, right? Every time you say a yes. So let's run through these questions. I really have the desire to be my own boss rather than work for someone else. Yes or no? I am a self-starter. Yes or no? I have experience in the type of business that I'm interested in owning and operating. Yes or no? I am an organized person. Yes or no? I have the desire to lead and direct others. I can make decisions quickly if I have to. I have good health and high levels of energy. I have the financial resources as well as future credit sources to enable me to begin. I have enough research to sustain my business in its early formative years. I have the desire to be innovative and creative. I prefer having a plan of action before I begin an activity. I am always on time for my appointments. I am willing to work long hours. Even though people tell me it can't be done, I'd rather find out for myself. I'll speak up for an unpopular cause if I believe in it. You get the drift? That is what it takes. Entrepreneurship is more than an idea. Entrepreneurship is more than a concept. I am reading a book right now. It's Steve Jobs' autobiography by Walter Isaacson. Anybody else read it? Reading it? Okay. Those of you who have already read it, you will know the part where there's Steve Jobs and there's Steve Wozniak, right? He is this brilliant engineer. And he is the one who created the chip and the board and all that technical stuff that engineers talk about. He was the brains behind Apple. But when you read the book, you're going to find out he was socially awkward, he was shy, he didn't even want to meet people, he just didn't want to do anything, and if he had been left to his own devices, the Apple would be a hobbyist computer today. Because as genius as he was with his skills and his product development, you needed that personality. And you should read that book. Everybody should read that book. Because it's a great book about how he started out and how he would call people. He didn't know how he would assume that they were going to give him the chip. It's great. That's the personality and that's the mindset that you need to be an entrepreneur. I'm going to zip through this. So So why do we do it? Why do entrepreneurs still become entrepreneurs? If you know that those are all the issues and if those are all the myths that we just exploded, you're going to be broke, you're going to be tough, it's going to be tough. Why are we still doing it? The first reason you do it is because you're doing what you love and you're loving what you do. That is the first reward of entrepreneurship. What is the second reward of entrepreneurship? Because you're innovative, because you're creative, a true entrepreneur will always have a sense of pride and recognition with their product or service because you've differentiated it, right? You're filling a gap in the market. You're not just another baker. You're not just another marketing company. You have come up with a concept which you say, this doesn't exist, I'm going to give it, and because I'm going to do it, there's a sense of pride in the product you created and in the recognition that you will no doubt get for what you're doing. So that's a reward of entrepreneurship. As an employee, you will not get it. Another reward of entrepreneurship is, remember what I said? Entrepreneurs work really, really long hours. That's true. But what's the reward? We get to choose the hours that we work really long. We get to choose that, right? So if I want to be with my teenage daughter from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m., I get to choose that. So yes, we work longer hours, but we have the luxury of working when we want, right? And there's a difference, and you need to understand that that's a huge reward. When I say entrepreneurs rarely take vacations, you know what? If you are truly an entrepreneur that loves what you do, that loves your product, you're rarely taking vacations. You know why? Because you'd rather be working. Not because you don't want that vacation. You'd rather be working. I got divorced many years ago. I got married 3 years ago. And my new husband and I went on a cruise for our honeymoon. And guess what? I had my laptop, I had my iPhone on the cruise. And he couldn't believe it. I said, honey, I love you, but I love what I do. I can't take 10 days off and not check in. That's why entrepreneurs rarely take vacations, because we love what we do. We'd rather be working. And if you're not in that kind of frame, then you're not an entrepreneur. You're just somebody who's self-employed and has created a job for themselves. And that's another difference that you need to appreciate, which I don't have the time, unfortunately. Rewards of entrepreneurship, challenge. Yes, there are setbacks. Yes, money is going to be tight. You don't know when your next client payment is going to come. You're constantly chasing. You really want to do your business, but instead what are you doing? You're following up on payments from clients. But there's always a challenge. How can I get better? How can my product get better? And we thrive on those challenges. Entrepreneurs thrive on that challenge. So that's why we get into what we get into. And of course, there's money. But it's important to know that if you are a true entrepreneur, money is not what's going to motivate you. It should not be what motivates you. And if you read the Steve Jobs' book, there's a chapter in there somewhere where Mark will tell Steve that you don't start Apple because you want to make money. Apple's philosophy is that they are going to create products which will meet the needs of consumers. That's why you do it. That's why you create your product, your service. You are delivering something that's not out there. The money will come. Trust me, it will come. And I don't have time for this, right? Can I go on? Yeah? Can I go on? Is that okay? Okay. So now that you are convinced, I'm just going to assume you're all convinced. So now that you're convinced that there are enough rewards to entrepreneurship, despite all the challenges to entrepreneurship, how are you going to get there? So I've got a little bit of a step-by-step guide. The first thing is test your idea. Speakers before me have already told you how to do that. Talk to your friends, talk to your families, talk to your, prospective clients. Have them laugh at you, have them brainstorm with you. Talk to them, get yourself a viable business idea, get yourself a solid support system. And this is where I start talking about books. There are 3 books that I'm going to mention at this point that every budding entrepreneur or wannabe entrepreneur should read. The first one is by the guru of entrepreneurship. His name is Michael Gerber. And his book is called The E-Myth. E stands for entrepreneur. He's also written a book called Awakening the Entrepreneur Within. Fantastic books because they tell you the difference between a technician and owning a business. And the difference between owning a business and owning a job. And you want to know exactly what you're doing. If you are an accountant that has quit Deloitte and started his own accounting practice, but if all you're doing is notice to readers and audits, you're still working. It's still a job, right? So you have to know what the difference is, and unfortunately I don't have the time for that, but the book will tell you. Oh no, there was one more book, right? Solid Support System, a book you should read, is called Who's Got Your Back? And it's by Syerah Virani. Fantastic book on creating support systems and accountability. How you can recruit your friends to become your accountability buddies. And if you don't, if you're happy to spend money, use a coach, right? You can contact one of them, you can contact me, you can contact any number, whatever works for you. But you know that you're going to be more motivated and more accountable when you have a accountability buddy. Financial resources, get your ducks in line. You don't have a mortgage and this and that and say, I'm going to start a business. No. You need to make sure you've planned it. You need to plan your idea while you're still in your day job, see how much traction is getting, see it generating revenue. Only when it started to generate revenue, not necessarily profit. There's a difference. But once you know it's working, people are willing to pay for whatever it is that you're putting out there. You build something, and you build it in the evenings, in the mornings, after work, on weekends. That's when you work hard. You milk your idea and get your money lined up so that when you embark on entrepreneurship, within the first month, you're not panicking about your mortgage payment because you've planned for it, right? Business plan. I'm not even going to say anything about this. If you just go onto Thai Institute's website, I have a whole 40-minute seminar on business plans. You can read about it, but my idea of a business plan is very unorthodox. This is always my last slide, and this is my thank you slide. I'm not going to spend time on it because I have 3 or 4 things that came up here that I want to talk to you about. One thing I want you to do is also read biographies. Remember I said the people like Zuckerberg and Richard Branson and Steve Jobs, let them inspire you? Read their biographies. There are amazing nuggets. Don't just use an Apple, iPhone, and an iPad and say, I love Steve Jobs. No! Read about what Steve Jobs had to go through to get where he's at. So some people I want you to read about is Steve Jobs, Richard Branson, Tony Hsieh. Tony Hsieh is the CEO of a company called Zappos. And he's written a book called Delivering Happiness. Unfortunately, Zappos does not deliver to Canada, but his book is amazing. And it's very inspiring, and these are true stories. Right, so 3 other books. Blue Ocean Strategy. It teaches you how to seek out new markets so that you're not fighting for the same old business. It really takes that concept of differentiation to a whole new level with great case studies in it. My favorite book, I talk about this at every seminar, Good to Great by Jim Collins, the book that changed my life. And I have a whole seminar on Good to Great, but never mind, just read it. Level 5 leadership, you'll know what I mean. 3 plugs I want to make. Entrepreneur is my coaching website. I run coaching programs. I do seminars regularly. I actually have a group on Meetup, and some people from my Meetup group are here tonight. Thank you. I actually now have 2 groups on Meetup. One is called Entrepreneur, one is called Business from a Women's Perspective. Join those groups. I'm always hosting events like this where women get together. I do dinner circles for entrepreneurs. So get on the program and connect with us. And if you are interested in the MyBindi side of my business, we're always looking for interns. So come talk to me, and we'll find you something that you can learn from. Thank you very much for your time, and I hope you enjoyed the
Questions?
Any questions? Yeah, I forgot about that.
I was just wondering, why don't the companies actually appreciate the fact that some employees have more creativity than is required, and why don't they, let's say, let you be part-time and help you to grow your business while still working?
Well, that really depends on the company in question. Like, you know, every company has a different policy. So I don't think, first of all, I'm qualified to answer that, but I have a small company with
Okay, so then I rephrase. Why do people have to actually quit their job?
You don't. You have to go, that's where you need the courage to go up to your, you know, and that's what marketing is. You are marketing yourself. You Inc. You know,
what I don't understand, why do you have to quit your job?
You don't have to. You don't have to. This is a choice you make. There is nothing you have to do unless you want to. You will only become an entrepreneur if you are not given enough support in your corporate environment, correct? So the first thing you do is you seek that support in that environment. You go up to the people and say, and if you don't, that's when you have to make that choice. There's never a have to about that.
But you can keep your job and do
Absolutely.
your thing. So it's not a requirement to quit your job.
Nope.
You can still work and then have
If that works for you, absolutely, you can do that. There are no absolute rules in entrepreneurship. So I'm sorry, I just don't see a question in there, but if that's the question, then the answer is yes.
It's just a comment that the company should actually encourage the people to do this, and that is not because from all these talks, it was people are left with the impression that you have to quit your job and then you can start your company. But I know lots of people who are still having their job and doing their passion as a side, and then when the time is right and their own company is growing, you can quit.
But that's exactly what I agree with. And that's what I said. You have to nourish your job while you still have your day job. You build your entrepreneurial side. But you don't quit your job until you're ready for it. So absolutely, I agree with you.
Next question.
Could you expand upon what you meant by your accountability buddy?
Okay, accountability buddy. How many of you have tried to lose weight? We're with a women's group. I want every hand to be up. Every woman I know is trying to lose weight, right? If you have tried to lose weight, okay, at some point in your life, have you been suckered into doing one of those personal training sessions, right? I have. And you know what? It's the same gym. I can pay $50 a month and go on those same machines, do the same routine, and then I have to pay a personal trainer $75 an hour. And what does that personal trainer do? Watch you. 20 minutes on the treadmill. Good. 20 minutes on the mat. Good. Now let's do some weights, right? And what happens? You show up. You show up at the gym when you've got that personal trainer waiting for you. A, because you paid him good money, and B, because you're accountable. And that's why they say when you're doing Weight Watchers, when you're doing a gym routine, when you're trying to run, get a buddy with you, right? Because you'll motivate each other. So that's what I mean by having an accountability buddy. Now, in a corporate environment or in an entrepreneurship world, it's a little bit different because you will be goal setting. And that accountability buddy, whether it's your coach, somebody you're paying to do it, or a friend who is invested in your success, will say, you were supposed to do that list of 20 clients. Where is it? Now you know somebody's waiting for it, you're more likely to do it. So that's what accountability means. It also means it will keep you focused. If you're like me, if you're like Shelly, you'll start in an entrepreneurship and you'll say, oh, that's a great idea, I should do this. Why are you still trying to do this? Your accountability buddy's going to say, you want to do what? No, 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 this is what you're supposed to do. And that's why it's great to have an accountability buddy, right?
Any further questions? Yeah. Okay, last question.
I just want to get your opinion on failure. You know, coaching is good and all, and you're going to help develop somebody once they're an entrepreneur. But failure is also a big part, and that's where you learn. That's where you actually learn, and you're accountable. Can I just get your comment on your feelings on that, on failure?
Yeah, I actually think failure has a very negative perception out there, but it is probably one of the biggest lessons. If you're not failing a lot, you're not trying hard enough. So you will stumble, you will fall, but failure can also be viewed as reality check, which some people call failure. What I tell my clients is sometimes the best investments, does anybody want to complete that for me? Are the ones that you don't make, right? So sometimes a coach will actually be that honest with you and say, you know what, you're not ready. Or this idea, which you think is genius, is not unique enough. It cannot be differentiated enough. And don't risk your life savings, don't remortgage your house, because it's not going to fly. And that is the honesty that can also be termed as failure. But if that stops you from trying for a different idea, then it's a problem. But if it says, okay, I get it, what am I going to learn from it? And then I'm going to move on. And then it's not a failure anymore, right? Because you've actually used it and it's become a learning experience. So every failure teaches you something. That was the last question, right? Can you sit down?
Thank you, Syerah.
Thank you.